It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine. Welcome to the live stream. It's Thursday night, and that means one thing. It is time for our review show of Andor, the Disney Plus show that comes out every Wednesday. So we're here every Thursday evening to share our thoughts on the show. And joining me this week from fantatrax.com, Claire Hendry. Good evening, Claire.
Good evening and good morning, Tatooine.
Yes, indeed. Let's start. What's your thoughts on the series up until this episode?
So everybody who's been listening to Planet Leia or just my general friends know that I go against the grain and I actually really like Andor. I think it's a slow burner for sure. It feels to me like a big sort of BBC drama. It feels like an HBO sort of Big Little Lies for those in America that would know it, for those in England, The Split, that sort of thing. Slow drama with a plots and twists that you get quite confused about. You don't really understand really what's going on and you want to know more. And I know for a lot of fans that's frustrating, but for me, I'm quite happy to sit back, relax, just enjoy, see where it takes me. And then I have to, because I know what's going to happen to Cassian, I always end up watching at some point during the week Rogue One.
Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying it. I have to say that for me, I didn't think anything could tip Kenobi. But for me, this is definitely on a par with Kenobi. I'm not, Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, I've enjoyed. But for me, this feels a bit more grown up, a bit more my sort of thing. So I'm really enjoying this at the minute, really enjoying it.
Yeah.
More than I thought I would.
I've been on a bit of a roller coaster with it, and I've enjoyed some episodes, not enjoyed others as much. But certainly the last two episodes have been sort of my jam, really. I've really loved them. And this week, really enjoyed this week's episode as well. I'm a big Cyril fan, so Cyril's getting more and more action as the series gets on. It was more of a comedy thing that I like Cyril to start with, because he literally had nothing to do than sit sulking in a room or sitting eating cereal. But he's building and he's getting more and more creepy, and then he's going to snap and it's going to be glorious.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's going to, first of all, design himself a beautiful outfit, and he's going to get that designer look, and then he's going to get into one of those white uniforms for sure, and then he's just going to go.
Totally. Although we're liking his was it Department of Standards, his business suit and tie, very snappy.
Oh, I quite like it coming out from the front.
Yeah.
I
That's what I need.
I quite like that sort of look. He's definitely got a suave, sophisticated look about him, which makes me think that he's even more creepier than he should be.
Yeah. Let's jump.
His mother as well, that whole relationship. I know, I'm sure we'll get to it when we're talking through the episode. So, I think he's their dynamic's brilliant.
Mr. Newbuild's nailed it there. He's going to snap, cackle, and cough.
Yeah, I think he is, Mark.
Yeah. Let's jump straight into the episode, because it started with quite a big scene to start off, featuring Bix and Dedra Meero, and the scene ran quite a long time for a Star Wars show. They really let it develop quite slowly, and Bix getting interrogated by Dedra.
Yeah, I have to say that they're definitely giving the Empire that sort of Mengele, Nazi sort of SS feel to them, aren't they? This department that Bix is being clearly tortured by at the minute. You get that sort of sinister feeling from it, the whole psychological torture of this is what's going to happen to you and this and this. If that had been me, I'd have already confessed before they put that headset on me.
She got pretty aggressive.
Yeah, she's. I'm not sure whether to take this as a compliment or not, but Paul Naylor, a fellow Fanta tracker, said that I need to play as Deepa and stick on the white, suit, and then perhaps walk around and crack the whip with all you lot and put all the Fanta trackers into place at Celebration Europe. So if you see somebody with blonde hair walking around giving Brian you know, a, instructions, it's just me before.
Let's have a look then. Let's have a look. There we go. There's Deidre, and here's you. Not quite. Maybe
Let me rest in bitch face.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not as good as Mr. Naylor in the.
Tell me your thoughts.
It's not as good as Mr. Naylor in the Book of Boba Fett Dorman, is it? Really?
No. But you know what? I will try my best. Let's see what I come up with in Celebration. But yeah, an interesting scene. I think it's really dirty, really gritty, really scary in a way. Quite psychologically, you're put in this position where you think, oh my gosh, what are they actually going to do? What I would like to hope is, obviously now we've seen Saw Gerrera in here. What I'd like to see is that doctor being tortured by Boar Gullet.
Yeah. Well, Kingdom of Weird just made a comment there at the same time. He thought he was going to see
Oh.
Boar Gullet in that scene, and it would have been a great point to introduce Boar Gullet.
Yeah, great minds think alike. Kingdom of the Weird. Yeah, absolutely. I was expecting, Boar Gullet to come, like slurping through the corridors and doing it. But I have a feeling that we are going to see Boar Gullet before the end of this series. I'd like to hope anyway.
Yep. The talking of the sort of like the Nazi connotations in the series, you've kind of got the work will set you free kind of logic with the prison scene.
Absolutely. Our McFry that
Yep.
you see if you've been to Auschwitz. Well, actually, yes, it is Auschwitz. Birkenau is the other part attached to it. But yeah, definitely they are painting, the writers of this are definitely painting the Empire as pure and utter evil. The fact that they are saying that, human life is inconsequential. It doesn't matter that these guys are more dispensable than droids. If you heard that in the scene, it actually brings it. It's terrible. It's a terrible thought about how cheap life is to them, and the heartstrings with this guy here. You can see his demise. He's almost at the end of his run here, and you can see that he's just not going to make it, and your heart breaks for them. And this hard-nosed Cassian who shows no sympathy or empathy for anybody, for some reason has gelled and clicked with this guy.
Yeah. And Olaf, the old guy, he's starting to break sort of physically and mentally, and he's almost ready to be released. Andrew Fernside asking the question, it's the one I've been asking, is what are they making? Does MD know? And I think the general gist of it, people seem to think it's parts for the TIE fighters, but nobody really quite knows, I don't think.
I thought it was something like landmines or something, that sort of stuff. I can't. And the other thing is they might be making nothing of any use to anybody except that they are making stuff to keep them busy, to punish them, basically, because most of them are there for no reason whatsoever other than this whole control and fear factor that they're now trying to bring into the Empire to show that they have the control. I've just seen there about the outfits being orange white and then orange. And then if you notice later on, when the medic comes in, it's blue,
Yeah.
so it's quite an interesting take. You wonder, is that where they're coming from with that one? But yeah, I did notice that as well.
Possible parts for the Death Star. That's a good shout as well, I think. Kino, played by Andy Serkis, he's not having none of the chatter from the guys talking about Olaf being released soon and only having so many shifts to go. He's not happy. He's still cracking the whip, still quite an aggressive character.
Yeah,
From the
I
whole thing.
almost think that he seems to be, and you heard about it in the history books, when they were in the camps working, that they had the local man in charge of the squads, cracking the whip, but really didn't necessarily want to be. I think that's what Circus's character is doing. He knows it's fruitless. He knows that people aren't going to make it, but he's taken on this mantle of trying to, well, I mean, because obviously he will be killed otherwise, but to try and chivvy them on, make the moves, keep them going, and he does it in quite an authoritarian way. And I see so many, as I keep saying, so many draws and parallels, from our own history, that you almost feel that they're trying to bring it to the fore in that sense. So don't let this happen again, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Circus's character, I think he's got a lot more to come. For anybody who hasn't watched it yet, don't listen to this end bit, but you can see Cassian while he's talking to them. Um, when he's talking to them across the corridor with each other, trying to pry for information, you can see that he wants to crack. He wants to be on the right side of history. He wants to be on the right side of doing the right thing. But in the same time, he's scared and he's worried for his job, his position, and he just wants out of there.
Yeah. We've already talked a little bit about Dr. Gorst, one of my new favourite characters. He's so happy in his work, isn't he?
He's he Him and Cyril are definitely creeping me out.
Definitely.
I have to say I'm scared. But I fear. It makes me anxious seeing him. How can somebody be so happy when he's clearly torturing somebody? What pure evil is behind that man?
Yeah.
I think we're going to discover that he's going to be doing some terrible, terrible things,
Yeah.
later on in this. And then he's not, as I say, he's not going to make it to the very end, is he?
No. It kind of feels like there's going to be more to his story because they took such a long time to explain sort of like the headset and where the sounds came from. It kind of feels that either that's going to come up in this series or it's going to appear somewhere else. But pretty much she got an elaborate pair of beats by Dr. Dre put on her.
And to listen to the sounds of dying children
Yeah,
and officers
and you can kind of
being.
see by her reaction the pain of hearing it.
Yeah, and I think you're right there by saying that the empire was created for people who are twisted and to hide in and do what they want to do. I think that's definitely an easy way for people to get to it.
But the emperor's a democratically elected government, and she's the terrorist.
I know, it's frightening. It is frightening. It is
Yeah,
frightening, isn't it? The parallels are just, you
yeah,
don't even want to think about it really.
yeah.
But doesn't it make for great watching? It's
It does.
captivating.
It's and compared to all the rest of the Star Wars TV, this is going to be the most rewatchable, I think.
Yes, and the most thoughtful.
Yeah,
Thought provoking really about things. The rest of it is slapdash, Star Wars, guns, blasters, whatever. I think
yeah.
this is definitely on a sophisticated level for me. I love it.
Yep. And we kind of jumped back a little bit between Bix getting interrogated on Ferrex and Cassian in the jail, and he's kind of planning his escape and looking behind the panels on the walls when he can to try and figure out what they're going to do, trying to enlist the help of the other people round about him, and kind of formulate a kind of plan of how they're going to get out there. They're kind of discussing a number of guards and what the guards have got in their feet and what's electrified, what's not, and the kind of general theory is that the lift going up and down isn't electrified. You can touch the barriers. The guard didn't have the big rubber soles on his feet. This could be a weak point, and Cassian and his crew start discussing, is there potential to break out there, and the only person dead against it seems to be Kino at that point.
Yes, at that point, and interesting as well. Again, a bit of escape from Alcatraz. If anybody's been to Alcatraz or read any of the stories, or or any of the biographies of anybody who managed to escape, or the attempts to escape, or the escape to victory. The story of the prisoners of war who tried to escape. Those sorts of conversations and talk kept their minds alive, kept them with a bit of hope, kept them thinking about what was going on. And again, I think that is where they've pulled this sort of inspiration and influence from. Again, really clever. Whether they'll make it or not, who knows? But you're even thinking about it. When they're talking about, the lift is not electrified, so if he comes down, we can take him. But then you've got to work out, your escape plan from there, because they do not know anything about that facility.
No.
I'm going to say, with whatever the things are that's in their bodies that makes them electrocuted, they're all going to be, they're not going to escape anytime quickly, are they? No. Except there was the power cut.
Yes, that's true. There's something going on that they're not quite sure what's happening, but something nefarious is going on.
And when I was watching earlier episodes, and you could see them all in the lines, and you could see, well, what I thought was somebody going mad, because they'd been locked up in this facility, but it wasn't, was it? It was sign language.
Yeah.
And that only became apparent to me anyway this week. I'm sure other people noticed it last week and were saying that, but to me, I didn't really realize that until this week. And the fact that it takes 7 days for a message to travel through the facility. So for 7 days for it to travel through the facility, must be thousands, if not millions, of people imprisoned in this facility under the water, away from prying eyes, making something.
Yeah.
But they'll want the fear factor to go back out to society to say, you could get put in this place. So there's got to be some people released to say, I was here and I did this. So, you've got to be careful with, or the Empire do. They want to keep them locked away, but also in the same bit, they want to keep that fear factor going.
Yeah, totally. We jump back to Ferrex again. Bix interrogation's pretty much done. Deidre's got an impressive amount of information from as to what's going on, an incredible amount of detail, and they pretty much know everything that's going on, apart from the identity of Axis, who we know better as Luthien Rail. And we also get another little great Imperial scene with Captain Vanis Tigo, who's pretty much, please, miss, can I hang him? Can I hang him? I really want to hang him. Which was just something else, wasn't it? Really, it was just something.
Just evil.
I know. It's just,
I mean, why would anybody think like that? It appalls. I think the thing about this, and why I like it, is it appalls me.
yeah,
You know, it's like when you watch a Killing Eve episode and you think to yourself, no, they didn't just stab themselves at that bit. No, you couldn't do that. But, or an episode of The Boys, if you've ever watched The Boys, where you think, you couldn't be any more evil. Oh, yes, I can. Look, I'm going to ask permission from the teacher to hang somebody.
yeah. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah.
Talking at evil, terrible, terrible people, politicians, um, and trying to influence the Senate into being bad against our wonderful, glorious elected leader, Emperor Palpatine. And I loved during our speech how there was people shouting out, "All hail the Emperor," and and basically telling her to shut up. And
Yeah.
it was
I'm not going to lie. That sounded a bit like the Houses of Parliament
it
last
did,
week.
yeah,
You know, it it has that reminiscence, or that that feel of modern politics, where just everybody's just so um awful. I mean, this series definitely, as you're right, it makes you feel something. It's making me feel how awful people can actually be.
yeah. And all this started, as Kingdom of Weird pointed out earlier in the comments, all started with Jar Jar Binks. He was the one that pushed to get the lovely senator of Naboo elected. Um,
Yep, he's a lot to answer for, Jar
yep,
Jar. One of the reasons why I still don't like the prequels, but
yep.
we'll move on from that, shall we?
It was all a spiral from that point. But it was interesting to see Mon Mothma in her sort of element, in her kind of zone of what she does and what she delivers, trying to influence. And I noticed, and I'm guessing this is the way the Senate works: is the lights were going on and off in the different pods. I guess that's them showing or removing support, I guess, from the motion that she's bringing forward. So it was quite,
Yes, and she's trying to bring that motion forward, isn't she? About the control of the people, isn't she?
yeah. And it's I think it was the public order defense or something. It was
That's it.
labeled as,
That's it. The public order one. And the thing about it for me is she is doing a great job of what she says she's going to do, which is irritate people to detract from what she's actually doing.
yeah,
And a very clever plot and a very clever, sideline to it all. But the whole workings of the Senate, the disregard and the disrespect, from people, it would be interesting, wouldn't it, to, when the demise of the empire happens, what happens to all these, when the Senate is dissolved, or what happens to all these people who thought that they were in power, were enriched, and and had this influence, gone again. Like I said, you're in you can just go,
yeah.
you're out.
It all centers from one planet as well. If you think about it, that the Emperor's from Naboo. Um, Queen Amidala is the one that kind of helps turn Anakin to the dark side in many respects. She's from Naboo. Jar
Yeah,
Jar
maybe
Binks
we
is
should,
the one that put him in power. He's from Naboo. A lot to answer
yeah,
for that planet.
maybe what we need to do is if there's another trilogy comes out, after this, the one that's just been, maybe there's a new trilogy, and they build another super whooper duper mega Death Star and blow up Naboo.
Yeah,
Not a
that's
bad.
what's needed.
I like your theory, Brian. I never thought about it like that. Naboo is definitely the center of everybody's woes and tales. How do people not see that?
Yeah, it's true. And that's people with too much money and for fancy buildings and
Yeah.
underground pods. It's
I feel that if you've read some of the books, the political Leia books about that, you see Mon Mothma, or you can see where they're all coming from in the Senate, etc. You can see that development, and it's boo poo doo. That's very funny. You can see that sort of politics end of it, and we discussed this in Planet Leia, that actually the women were, are seem to be playing not necessarily the warriors. Naboom, very good, Mark Newbold. Um, they seem to be the wheelers and dealers, trying to negotiate the way around so that people can get going with it. So I think that's an interesting take on it.
yeah. We jump back to prison. Kino not happy at the guys talking in the tunnel about what's happening on level 2, which is, as we mentioned, they were sort of communicating by hand signal, trying to get an understanding of what's going on elsewhere in this environment, and taking great exception to the guys sort of questioning his authority, I guess, in many respects. He's just there. He wants to see out his number of days and get out. And that was an interesting scene. And then we kind of got the shock of the episode, or at least it shocked me. I hadn't anticipated this. We learned Mon Mothma has a sister, and it was none other than Vel, who we thought was Vel Sartha, but really turns out she's Vel Mothma.
And interestingly, we did have a clue to this in the previous episode when Vale was in the bar last week talking with her partner, and I can't remember her partner's name, Cinta, and she said, she alluded to, "You're just a spoilt little rich girl." And she used those words, "You're the spoilt little rich girl trying to escape reality." I think that was what she said. And Vale got very annoyed with her and said, "You don't know what I was doing." There was the clue between it. But clearly Mon doesn't realise that Vale was part of the undercover operation to get them to do the raid.
Yeah. Andrew, correct me there. Cousins, not sister. He's correct. It was a cousin, not the sister.
Oh, it was cousin.
Yeah.
Cousin, yeah. But interesting that she doesn't realise, Mon doesn't realise what a pivotal role she's had in this. And interesting in this episode how confident Vale was about the cause and the rebellion, etc. Whereas last week in the episode, she was definitely the doubter, the one who was worried, wanting to leave, etc. So the tables turned almost. And as Johanna and I were saying in Planet Leia, we didn't recognize her when she was all scrubbed up and looking good.
There is that immediate moment where you don't quite connect them, and it takes that second. And they have like an interesting family moment with Leda as well, where Vale's got Leda a dress, and Leda's all excited about that, but she still can't help but have digs at her mother, proper teenager, isn't she?
Listen, I am currently going through this in my own life, and no matter what you do or how wonderful you are, you'll always be the butt of the teenaged angst. And, there's the fun-loving, she'll be an auntie in a way, coming to save the day and bring the wonderful risky clothes and let her drink the little sip of whatever it is, etc., etc. Whereas last week at the party, there was Mon. All she wanted to do was have whatever that drink was, which was, I'm sure, is equivalent to a gin and tonic. And there was her daughter disapproving of her, going, "Ugh." I mean, how many could she actually roll her eyes into the back of her head any further than that. You know, and I feel this is almost why I have, a connection with Mon, because, there she is trying to navigate her job, her life, save the world, and then she's got this surly teenager who she loves dearly, but oh, pain in the backside. I get it. I know where she's coming from, and it'll be interesting to see where the daughter goes. You know, in this, will she follow her mum, or will she follow her dad, who clearly loves the easy life of the Empire?
In many respects, along the lines of Rogue One, a lot of these characters are going to have to die.
Yeah, yeah. I would say that, knowing, well, we all know, that the rebellion and the rebels, they suffer great losses. So the early rebels, practically all of them are wiped out, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know,
And in her final move to the rebellion, Mon's got to kill Perrin, hasn't she?
I would think so. I think that's got to be the retribution, but I can't see her as a killer.
She's going to end up just being an absolute violent one with knives, I reckon. It's going to be bloody.
Not on that great outfit, darling. Not a chance.
Yeah. Talking of bad people, back in the jail, um, Andor's trying to encourage Andy Serkis's character, Kino Loy, to give him some information to help him plan their escape. Really keen to know the number of guards on each level. And Kino, having been there quite a long time and just over 200 days to go, or 200 shifts to go, not keen on giving any kind of information, and worried by the fact that people might be listening in, and pretty much rejects every approach that Andor kind of makes to elicit that information out of him.
And again, I think if I was in that position, I probably would be the Andy Serkis. I would be the one worried about what they were hearing, what they were listening to. As much as I almost think that I would love to be the hero and the breaking out, I probably would be the conformist, simply because I would be worried about the consequences. So I get that character's traits. I feel that, so close but yet so far is probably his motto at the minute.
Yeah.
Counting down the days. How many? I mean, is it a shift a day? Half, almost 3/4 of a year to go.
Yeah. Talking to rowdy teenagers like we were, Cyril Karn.
Here he is.
Not quite a teenager. My favourite character. He's back at the chocolate wheat balls and blue milk, winding up his mother, slurping out the bowl. She's giving him heck for she found something dodgy in his private box in his bedroom, basically. We won't discuss what that could have been.
Porn in Star Wars. Oh,
Yeah.
I even dread to think what is in. No, don't go there. Don't go there.
Yeah. Let's not go there. He wasn't impressed. His mother wasn't impressed, and she started having a go at him. And he pointed out that he'd got a promotion at his work, so as a reward, he got more chocolate wheat balls.
I know, bless him. And look at that. Look at that canister of blue milk as well, just in the background. I mean, I have to say, I have been nosing in the kitchen every time they have a scene in there. It's very utilitarian, isn't it? But you can
Yeah.
see there's a blender at the back, there's the milk jug, and then there's the good old mother, looking after her pride and joy. And I would say that this is definitely modeled on mothers hen pecking their sons.
Yeah.
I can see that, and I can see parallels in that with my own brother in a certain respect. There's my mum looking after him, and he's got his fancy clothes on and everything, and ready to go to work. And yeah, the dynamics of this pair are brilliant. She's irritating as heck, but you know, a bit like Mom Mothma just wants what's right and best for her kid, and and is so pleased, when they do so well. I get it. I get it. I didn't ever think I would,
And Uncle Holden
until I
will be
have my
pleased as
own,
well.
and you fall, and everybody feels pleased for him.
Yeah. The other family dynamic just as problematic. Mon Mothma's on her iPad. The cousin, she's just watching everybody and thinking
I
bad
think she's
thoughts.
sitting there having a drink, just being surly, whatever, and then you can see there, and that does play out in our house sometimes as well. Daddy's best girl sitting there with her daddy, and the two of them are looking at, mum going, "Oh God, here she goes again, Miss Serious," fun dad and boring mum. I do feel so sorry for Mum Mothma in this whole dynamics. I get where she is. I get where she's coming from in this dynamics, because it having a teenage daughter it's wonderful. It is the most wonderful thing in the world. But my goodness, sometimes, yeah, you're treading a fine line there, and just be, being, is this going to go this way, or is it going to go that way today? Which way is it going to go? So, do you know what? I'll just sit back and see where it's going to take me.
The one thing from this scene that I picked up on, they were all having pudding, and it looked like Mon Mothma was having four different puddings, the greedy so and so.
Oh,
Uh,
I saw it from the dad. I thought that they were eating eggs. It
okay.
looked to me like it was 4 eggs in a row with these big giant scooper spoons. But yet, um, the cousin, Val, was just too cool for school and was just drinking her drink.
Mr. Newbell's got a comment here. His Pelly motto. I'm presuming he's talking about what's in Cyril's private box, and that's some kind of weird rhyming slang. But we'll move swiftly on.
Oh, yes, I've seen that. Yeah. No, walk away.
We get talking to the family dynamics. We do get the touching little moment between the cousins, um, where the debate their disgusting terrorism against the lovely democratically elected emperor, and their various positions within it, their concerns for each other's safety as well, and it was quite an interesting scene. And the character of Vel and the actress playing Vel didn't get that much attention before the series started, and she's really taken on quite a significant role. Faye Marsley that plays Vel um,
I
in the
think she's.
series.
I think she's clearly a quite a confused character. She clearly loves her partner and will do anything for her. Is that her motivation for being in the rebellion? Hard to know. Looking now that we know that they're cousins, probably not. But who got who into it?
Yeah, and you
That's
kind of
that's the dynamic that I want to know now about those two.
here's the other potential reason of why Mon Mothma becomes so involved is something tragic going to happen to Vel.
Yeah, she clearly cares about her and wants and knows that she's doing more dangerous things that she's letting on, because you could tell that from the conversation, which was now she's got to do a bit of cloak and daggers and pretend to be the spoiled little rich girl that she has been in the past. I do think it's quite amusing. There was a comment at the dinner table, where the husband asked Phil about trying to find a husband.
Yeah,
And I think that the daughter thinks that the old elementary school friend and Mon are having an affair.
take Hulma.
Take Holma. I think that the daughter thinks that they're having an affair.
There was also another interesting comment that Perrin made was that she's getting a little bit old. And when you compare that to the fact that Mon Mothma was married at 15, I was wondering, is that a cultural thing for the people of Chandrila? They've all got to be married at an incredibly young age, or
Yeah, I mean, again, it seems to be a current theme in Star Wars, doesn't
yeah.
it?
And then I started thinking on top of that, are we going to see Layla be, or Leda rather, being matched up with someone before the series ends as well? And could that end up being an element of conflict if Perrin matches her up to a quite strict Imperial such as Creepy Cyril?
Oh, creepy Cyril. No, I feel that Cyril is going to stalk out and torture that girl.
Yeah. Mark making the same point there that maybe losing Vel's going to be what pushes Mon over the edge, because she does seem to be holding back a little bit here and there.
I think that she's worried. I do think that she's worried where this is going to go, and what the consequences are if that you know if she gets caught out. I mean, she's probably the most public figure. Everybody else, if the rest of them all die or are killed, nobody's going to know, are they?
No.
But if Mon Mothma's caught out, the humiliation and then the public retribution behind all that, ultimately, I would say that she's worried about her family
Yeah.
and her daughter in particular, even though she gives her lots of grief. But I feel that, she's worried because her position is so public. If she goes down, the humiliation, the outcry will be so public that her family will never be able to come back from that. You know.
Yeah. Talking about someone that's going to do something that's going to disgrace his entire family. Cyril, creepy Cyril, has been hung about outside the Imperial Security Bureau, looking for his. Can we call her his crush, Dedra Miro? He's become slightly obsessed by her, it would seem.
Well, she's in that trench coat, isn't she? And that to me just strikes of authority. I was just looking there on Twitter when you look up the hashtag Andor, there's lots of people commenting about Cyril and his Cyril and his cereals.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to start a hashtag about that. You
Cyril,
know,
Cyril the serial killer. It's going to be the.
uh, you see, it's got to be something like that, doesn't it? It's just like it's hilarious. Uh,
It's a real crush he's got though, isn't it? He's become obsessed by her, and there was definitely tension there. Not sure if
well,
Dedra was liking it or not. I think there was an element of her being disgusted and an element of her being quite intrigued by this
yeah, I
very.
thought she would be flattered with somebody sharing her feelings, but is she so power hungry that she wants all the glory for herself and for this two-bit security officer, to have all this intel, to have all this thought, puts her in a awkward, precarious position, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. There was there was a scene where she went inside after this, and she sort of took off her coat and her hat, and she's quite flustered by the whole thing. And I don't know whether it was a flustered and I've got a crazy stalker, or I've got someone that really likes me, and I didn't know
Yeah,
quite
I
what
can't.
to
I
make of
couldn't
it.
work it out either, whether she fancies him or not. I'm going to go with not at the minute. I think more threatened and creeped out,
Yeah,
but I could be wrong. But like, look at his eyes. I mean, those eyes in that scene, they were like bright red. They were like real, you know, holes in the snow almost. Uh, she's just. I almost thought there they were going to snog, and then
yeah,
they didn't. And then you realize, no, it's not. It's revulsion. But
yeah.
look at him. He just looks. He's getting worse, isn't he? Uh, with his looks, he just. Yeah.
He's going to kill someone, isn't he? He has to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like
I'm just
it's
not
been like
sure who yet.
the evolution of a killer over the whole series. That's why I've become so obsessed by him.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. He's just he's captured my imagination somehow. Um, a character I don't like at all is Tay Colma, and he had a scene with Mon Mothma. She's trying to sort out her finances to get more money for the rebellion, and she hasn't been very wise in what she's been doing so far, and she's got a big gap in her paperwork for 400,000 credits, and Tay's offering up a solution, and that solution's not particularly welcome of Mon Mothma. It's a shady underground character from Chandrilla, who feels like we're going to meet in future episodes because he's demanded
Yep.
a meeting with Mon Mothma if he's going to help at all. So, having gone to our friend of Tay, Mon Mothma's not really impressed, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. So what doesn't impress you about Tay? What is he
He's
just too greedy?
just a banker.
Yeah. I'm glad you said
Yeah,
banker.
I'd have paused.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just I don't trust him. I think
No.
he's sold the line that he's possibly a rebel, and Mon Mothma's sort of bought into it, and they've not really told each other one way or the other. But I think he's deep into the Imperial, and he's setting her up for an almighty fall.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, it feels like he's going to link her up with this underground guy, and then he's just going to bring the house of cards down around her, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that would be so awful because they were, they were in in school together, brought up together, all together.
It's
It's
his
a hard
ultimate
one.
revenge for her going away with Perrin.
Yeah. Oh, do you think this could be the love interest? But do you know what? Maybe a luller.
There's so much love interest going on in the show.
I mean,
Welcome and unwelcome.
yeah, they could be like they could be like they could have an affair, and then that's what he does to trap her. If you I'm going to go public with this, your political career is going to be in a mess, and it'll be quite interesting to see, won't it?
Yep, it's going to be the John Major and the um, Edwina Curry.
Edwina Curry. Oh God, yeah, get
And
the. Well, they had eggs at the dinner
they
table,
had
didn't
eggs
they?
at the dinner table, had grey peas, potentially. Dear. If you're from America, you don't get any of these references. Don't worry about it. People in the
No,
UK won't get it
sorry.
either.
Google Edwina Curry and John Major, and you'll work
Yeah,
it out.
yeah. Or Google what's the puppets called?
Oh, spitting image.
Spit an image that has a Star Wars
Oh, and look
connection.
at them, and as if
Yeah,
on cue.
yeah. Here is Snoke. Poor Olaf, he's at death's door, and he's getting help from Cassian, and Kino helps as well, and the Doctor Rashiv comes along, but rather than offer any kind of help, he pretty much basically says, "Better if I just kill the guy off," and
Yeah,
pretty much you're all going to die anyway. Have you not heard what happened on level 2? They took a guy that had been freed from level 4 and he ended up on level 2 and it was noticed. All hell broke loose and so they killed everybody on level 2. None of us are getting out alive. It's all a con.
yeah. And basically, you're here until you die. And he isn't a doctor of any sort. He's basically the doctor of death who comes along, and any poor soul that looks like they're about to, you know, they don't. There's no sick bay, is there? There's no back to tank for them. It's literally,
Yeah, that's it. And so the realization comes to Kino. So when Cassian asks him one last time, how many guards are on a level? Kino replies 12.
Yeah.
And so that's how the episode ends. I thought it was a really nice ending and a nice way to handle it, and it kind of tees everything up. It looks like we're going to get things kicking off in the jail over the next episode potentially.
Yeah, you see, the thing about it for me is because we know that Cassian becomes a pivotal role in the rebellion along with Mon Mothma, how on earth do they get to that bit? How on earth do they get to being those two pivotal roles along with the general when they interview Jin Erso? How do they get from where they are now, one stuck in what seems to be a completely honest, you cannot escape this prison, and one wrapped up in such political turmoil? How do they become, and how do they get to where we know they get to, and even beyond that, where Mon Mothma gets to in Return of the Jedi?
And that's what we're going to find out in the next 15 episodes, I guess.
I know, I love it. That's why I like it. I almost like it because I know where they get to, but I just want to know how they get there.
I'm wondering if for the next episode, because we're moving into the last 3 episodes of the series and it's kind of been broken down into sort of 3 episode groups, are we going to see a little jump in time perhaps for the next episode? Or are they going to, it feels like it shouldn't, it feels like it should just be one storyline through the finish now. And
Yeah.
obviously next season they've already said they're going to do 1 year per 3 episodes, so we're going to get a lot of time jumps and a lot of movement next year. It kind of feels like this is going to be a 3 episode sort of concluding arc, and for this series it's going to sort of flow with this storyline. It doesn't feel like it needs a time jump at this point.
No, I know. And do you know what? Do you know what I was just thinking, Brian? Because you like him so much, you need to make sure that you get to London Comic Con, because Cyril is going to be there, so you can ask him all these questions.
What one's that? The one in February?
No,
November this month.
November 19th, 20th. They've just announced that Kyle Soller is going to be at London Cinema, so you can go up and look him in the eye and say.
I actually earlier this season, I can't remember, I think it was like episode 4 or 5, and I had to do the review show myself, and I actually went out and bought chocolate wheat balls from Tesco, and there were white and chocolate ones in it, so I sat and picked out all the chocolate ones just to have a bowl of cereal on the show, just myself, like Cyril.
You could bring a bowl with you and get him to sign one of them.
I know, terrible. I think he's going to be popular at MCM.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. His character certainly draws you to him, creeps you out, but draws him to you.
Yeah, there's Mr. Newbold with the information. He's always there at hand. February 19th at Olympia.
Yeah.
There we go. Chance to see Kyle Soller at plays Cyril Khan. How could you miss out on that? And don't slap him if you see him. Like, don't be like his mother. Be nice.
Yeah, be nice to him. Don't give him grief.
Give him a little bit of praise for his.
Somebody needs to go up to him with a bowl of wheat puffs and blue milk.
Yep, definitely. If you do that, tag Fantha Tracks. We will repost it and share it across our platforms.
Yeah. Get if you've got that photo opportunity, get that white bowl and that clear jug of blue milk.
Yeah. The aforementioned Mr. Paul Naylor's on next week's show. What's your
Birthday
predictions?
boy.
Yeah, what's your predictions for what could potentially I could be reviewing with Paul next week?
What are you going to be reviewing next week? I think you're going to see Cyril in a white uniform, which he will have customized with a little bit of edging and a little bit of piping.
An Imperial one or a jail one?
An Imperial one.
Okay.
An Imperial. I think he's going to become an Imperial officer. He's going to work in that department. What do I think? I don't think the escape from Alcatraz is going to happen quite yet. I think that's going to be another episode down the line. I would like to see the spoilt little rich girl go out in the town in Coruscant and get to the bottom of where the banker is going. I think she's going to pursue that a bit. I think she's going to go and visit Laura's in the shop as well. And did I get this right? That the shop assistant is called Leia.
It's not Leia. It's Cleda, I think it is, or Cleda.
It sounded really close to it. I couldn't really make it out. But so I think Vale's going to go out on town and get absolutely trashed and be a spoilt rich girl. I'm quite looking forward to that one. And what else do I think? And I think Saw Gerrera is going to get Bor Gullet out. And I think Dr. Ghost is not going to see the end of this series.
Okay. He's one of my growing favourites. I've got a thing for all the evil, terrible people on the show.
Clearly you do.
I just think it's, you know what, they never get their story told. And I just like the fact that they're getting their story told. These are the people who you can call them evil, but do they know they're evil?
No, they haven't agreed. They think they're doing it for the greater cause.
Yeah.
And that's the bit about history that is so accurate in this.
Yeah.
They don't believe they're evil because they believe in their cause.
Yeah, and when he's standing there explaining to the Bix like how they've come about with this equipment, he's just delighted that he's been able to come up with this piece of equipment and how they discovered it. And he's a little bit awkward, like, oh, well, some people got hurt. Oops, dear. But Clayla Markey is her name. Clayla Markey.
Layla. Yeah, I knew I could hear the Layla or Leia in it somewhere. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. We will see what happens. There is no Good Morning Tatooine this Sunday. I've got a break this weekend. So I'll be back next Thursday with Paul Naylor from FantaTracks.com, and we'll be discussing episode 10, which I'm reliably informed from Mr. Newbold, who's seen it, the animal that he is, that it is a great episode, and I don't know any more than that, but it's apparently
I'm looking
very,
forward
very
to
good. So we'll look forward to it. Claire, thank you for joining me this week.
Yes, I always seem to manage to go a bit left field with a lot of my things.
Yeah, that's what we like about it. And thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate all your comments throughout the show. And we'll see you all next Thursday. Good night.
See you next Thursday. May the Force...
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FantaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at FantaTracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow FantaTracks TV to be alerted to new content and be a part of our live shows.